Thank you for all the attendees who are tuning in here to our webinar as we celebrate Unite's 2020 ALS Community Advocate Award winners. We hear their perspective on ALS advocacy, and we discuss ways to maximize the impact of advocacy within the ALS community. I am so excited to be moderating a panel of such esteemed ALS advocates. This community is just absolutely amazing, and it's really an honor to be here. Beyond that, all across our company, we're incredibly proud of this community. The commitment demonstrated in 2020 and previously by ALS patients, caregivers, and community members. There are so many circumstances making participation difficult right now, even beyond the normal ones. And yet here you are, continuing to show up and see how we move forward faster. So a huge thank you to the entire community. Thank you to the rest of my team at Unite as well for working behind the scenes to make this event happen. And a special welcome and thank you to our speakers who I will introduce momentarily. A little bit about me and Unite, for those who aren't aware of us. My name is Tanner Dagdalen. I am the co-founder and chief executive officer of Unite Genomics. And through the technologies that we're developing at Unite, we aim to rapidly increase the research community's understanding of ALS, get more patients into trials faster, and cut years off of the discovery cycle time for researchers. So we envision a world where all patients are empowered to improve their health and no patient's disease goes untreated. And this world is 100% possible. And as a community, we can make it happen. So a little bit about this event and what to expect. Today, we're excited to have with us our 2020 Community Advocate Award winner, Allison Boulat, runners-up Bobby and Michelle Quinn, as well as Janessa Pinot and Sandy Morris. So I have some prepared questions for our panel, but we want to answer as many audience questions as possible. So if you have a question at any time during the event, please use the Q&A feature to submit your question, and we'll reserve time at the end of the session to answer them. So the Q&A feature is distinct from the chat feature, so go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A box. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce our speakers. First and foremost, we have our 2020 ALS Community Advocate Award winner, Allison Boulat. Allison has been an active community member and an active member of the Northeast ALS Consortium since 2017, and currently serves as a NEALS Research Ambassador, faculty member, and co-chair of the Patient Education and Advocacy Committee. Aside from her work with NEALS, she's a member of the Healy ALS Platform Trial Team working in patient navigation, retention, and recruitment, and is on the Patient Advisory Board. If that isn't enough, Allison is also a member of her local ALS Association chapter in Arizona, serving on the Board of Directors and Care Services Committee. Most recently, in September of 2020, she was a consumer reviewer of ALS research requests for the Department of Defense Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. So welcome, Allison. We also have with us Bobby and Michelle Quinn, who have formed Team Quinn along with many, many supporters. Many supporters. We were in awe of how many supporters you have. And they have actively fundraised for the ALS Association's DC, Maryland, Virginia chapter since Bobby's ALS diagnosis. Bobby and Michelle have also formed the nonprofit Team Quinn in 2019. We also have with us Janessa Pinot. Janessa began her ALS advocacy efforts after her aunt was diagnosed in 2018. She immediately formed a team and has been creatively raising funds for ALSA of Wisconsin ever since. Janessa, you're another one of those that has a lot of supporters. And last but certainly not least, we have Sandy Morris with us, who will be off video, but will be with us in audio. Sandy was diagnosed with ALS in January of 2018. Since then, she has been tirelessly advocating for legislative improvements and more appropriate clinical trial protocols. She leads the I Am ALS team that created the PACT trial rating system. She's also participated in our virtual events in the past, and I can proudly say that she is a pillar of leadership in the ALS community. So thank you all for joining us. I'm so excited to be moderating this panel today. So I have some prepared questions to kick us off. And again, at any time, if you have a question, post it in the Q&A, and we'll get to it towards the end of the session. So the first question I have, and I'll just direct it around so everyone has a chance to answer. Maybe we'll start with you, Janessa. How did your journey with ALS advocacy begin? And then how did your advocacy efforts grow into what they are now?
So my Aunt Kathy was diagnosed in June of 2018. And that honestly was the beginning of the journey, because obviously we had known about it from like the Ice Bucket Challenge, but did I really know about it? And the answer is no, I didn't. So as she continued with her journey, the obvious need for us to kind of rally support around her, but also to give back to the community as well. So we created Teen Sitters Clan, and from there it was really surrounding the ALS walks. And as she progressed with her disease, we started doing personal fundraising as well for her. So last November, or a year ago November, we had held a private fundraiser for her to help offset some of the costs that she had gone through. But in reality, what it was is I wanted her to feel supported. I wanted her to have a group around her. So I created a Facebook group as well, to help just drive the message, what was going on with her, but also what are we doing as a group to help support her. So it was a multitude of things. A lot of it is just, if I see a story, sharing it on that Facebook group of, others that are going through the journey, or, sharing her own story. So that is really what drove the journey for me. My aunt is not only my aunt, she's my godmother. And on top of that, my dad comes from a very large family, and my grandmother had passed away before I was born. So she's the matriarch of our family. So she impacts a lot of people. So it's what I can do,
Thank you. And Michelle and Bobby, how about you? Where did your advocacy journey begin? And after you, we'll go to Sandy.
Ours followed a very similar path to Janessa. Bobby started having symptoms less than 90 days after we got married in 2016. And I had only known one other person ever in my life that had ALS, and it was many years prior. Bobby had never known anyone really, indirectly knew some people, but didn't really know a lot about the disease. So he was diagnosed officially April 3rd of 2017. And then it just became, I think it's a very similar path that we all follow. It's like you go through the, oh my God, what's going to happen phase to, oh my God, what can I do phase? So I just Googled, ALS resources in Richmond, Virginia, which is where we are, and came upon the local ALS Association chapter. And met with some of the care services folks there, learned about their walk, which was going to be taking place about 6 months later. And my husband is a consummate competitor. If he can compete at, colored crayons, he will. I mean, if he can compete, he's going to do it, and it'll be 150%, he's going to win. So being that he couldn't compete athletically anymore, which is what he had done his whole life, we said, okay, well, we can get a team together for the walk, and we can compete in that. So, so we did. So our first chance to walk was 6 months later after he was diagnosed in 2017. And on that year here at the ALS chapter in Maryland, DC, Virginia, we had over 200 walkers. We were the largest team they had ever seen, and we raised over $24,000 the first year. The second year, we had close to 200 walkers. Again, we raised over $25,000. And then 2019, we had about the same number of walkers, but we almost doubled our funds raised to over $41,000 that year. So that's kind of what got our momentum going as far as the advocacy was concerned, was getting the word out by trying to recruit walkers, and getting the awareness out, because so many people didn't know what ALS was. So that kind of is what, so getting involved in the local chapter and the walks is what jump started, our advocacy and wanting to spread the word.
Amazing. And how about you, Sandy? Are you able to unmute yourself and share how your advocacy journey started?
Yes, I can, but you'll love this, Tanner. Our my amplifier broke last night, so if my voice is too soft, just let me know. My daughter will take over. But
Okay. Would it be possible to move the microphone a little bit closer? We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Hi,
Yeah.
Tanner. This is Sandy's daughter as well. I'm not sure if you heard any of that, but we did have a amplifier incident last night, but this is ALS, and so we will adjust. And
That's right.
so she's right here. She's gonna her voice is fine for me right here, but it's harder when it's trying to get through the screen. So we're gonna do the best we can, and if she can't amplify it, I will.
That sounds great.
great, thanks, Tanner. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So my advocacy started with realizing that ALS was the wild, wild west. And there just really wasn't anything to reach for. And I really couldn't believe that in 2018 in America, that this is what we got. So I fought and started working with the FDA to make sure that we had clinical trials that we would want to be a part of, and joined IMALS to lead the charge and be true street fighters and making sure we were making changes for a disease that really needed it. So as you already know, Tanner, we worked with, and we continue to work with, over 35 drug sponsors that absolutely have embraced the PACT rating that says we're humans. We're not zebrafish, and we deserve trials. We deserve expanded access programs. We deserve humanity and efficiency. And so that's where my advocacy began. I don't at all feel sorry for myself for getting this disease. That is no problem. But I do think it is a social injustice that we are so far behind.
Mhm.
And that's what we fight for. And you have incredible fighters on your panel right now who are all saying the same thing. So thank you so much for allowing us to say that out loud again.
Thank you, Sandy. And I think we're all in complete alignment that nothing short of light speed is acceptable. And no matter how fast we go, we can always go faster, and we have to go faster. So thank you, Sandy. Allison, can you share with us how your journey started as well?
Sure. So like everybody, I think that has been on this journey, it starts with an ALS diagnosis, right? And mine was my husband's diagnosis in 2015. And at that time, I guess I really didn't even know I was advocating, so to speak. But I think what I've learned in hindsight is you're advocating for the people that you love and for the families that are involved. And so when he passed on in 2016, there was no way to go back to who I was or the life that I had before. And really, the only place that I felt comfortable was within the ALS community and the people who had understood kind of what I had been through. So that's how it started for me. And I started volunteering in absolutely everything I could, in every capacity that I could, until I found the spot where I thought that I could actually make a valuable contribution. And I went back to school and completed my graduate studies in clinical research management, because clinical research was that spot for me. And so I guess I look at my advocacy journey as multiple parts of fundraising, of volunteering, of research, but at the bottom line, I'm advocating for people. So I don't think that journey will ever actually stop.
Awesome. So why don't we take a minute to look back at 2020? I want to get everyone's perspective on what you see as the community's biggest accomplishments in 2020. Of course, there's a lot of unfinished business. We have a lot to accomplish in 2021 as well. But what do you see, and maybe we'll go in reverse order. So we'll start with you, Allison. What do you see as the community's biggest accomplishment in 2020 when it comes to ALS advocacy?
Well, first you scared me, Tanner, when you said, let's talk about 2020. I'm like, oh, no, please let's not. So thank you for keeping going on that. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen happen was a dream that I actually got to share with Sandy and with Brian a couple of years ago, where our community used to be very fragmented. And if you tended to latch on to wherever you found the light when you needed it most. For example, the ALS Association was there for me when I needed it. So I'm an ALSA person, or I'm an MDA person, or I'm a this person. But the truth is we're all fighting the same battle. And I think what I've really seen happen this year is everybody coming to the same table and all of these organizations working together and sharing information and becoming transparent and allowing patients and their families to be a part of that and to bring that all together. I think the glue was missing for so long. And now that the glue is there, we're so much further ahead. I think it was an amazing year for our community.
And how about you, Sandy? What do you think is the community's biggest accomplishment in 2020?
There were quite a few, and I feel really, really good about that, Tanner, because I wasn't sure that I was going to see it in my lifetime. So I'm super grateful. We did get legislatively, we've got really strong, and we weren't able to get through 8662 and 4867 in time for 2020, but we will for next year. We're set up so well for that. And that's expanded access, and that's really what we all need to be caring about. But we did get through the 1407. We got through the SSDI bill, in which we don't have to wait 5 months for Social Security anymore, which was beyond ridiculous. But even more importantly than those bills and laws is this: we're all talking the same language now about clinical trials and expanded access. And when I started, people thought I was crazy what I was asking for. They would tilt their head to the side like a Cocker Spaniel. And now they engage, and they know that it's the right thing. And they know that HIV and oncology has done it much better. And that there's no reason in the world that ALS can't be much, much better. So I would say that with the I am ALS signal dashboard, showing all the clinical trials, showing the ratings of trials that are out there from a humane and efficiency standpoint, and just the fact that all the right people are at the table trying to make it a better place to get investigational therapies inside the patients of ALS bodies is what I feel most proud of.
Thank you, Sandy. And how about you, Michelle and Bobby?
I don't know how much more I can add. I mean, Allison and Sandy, said it beautifully, and I think Allison made a really good point when she said, for so long the community's been so fragmented. Everybody was kind of, on different lifeboats, if you will, all kind of, within sight of each other and all heading in the right direction. But now we're kind of like all on the same boat. Closer together. We've gained a lot of momentum, like Sandy said, legislatively, having things passed. It's gotten a lot more attention, not just in the media, but I think in so many different, medical communities and arenas, the different clinical trials. There's so many more out there. Now it's just a matter of having these patients get easier access to them, especially the folks that are in the far reaching areas that, which is where we are in Virginia. There's a lot of ALS patients that are down in the West Virginia area. which are, rural, remote areas. There's not a lot of access to treatment. Some of them don't even have internet access down there. And, their resources are very, very limited. So I think it's, those are the folks that when we set up our nonprofit that we're trying to reach as well, are the folks that are having more of a struggle being heard and getting their needs met and having access to different resources. But I agree with Sandy and Allison. It's something that I think 2020, as crazy as it sounds, it was a horrible year in some areas. But I think as far as ALS progress and advocacy and awareness is concerned, I think we made huge strides. I really do.
And how about you, Vanessa?
So I think my answer would probably be more in a silver linings look. So looking back at 2020, obviously it was not the best year for the vast majority, but one of the things that it caused everybody to do is to be creative, which obviously ALS patients and their caregivers have to be every day. But with that being said, one of the things that we had done was to create or just have a standing Zoom call with our family, with our extended family, so that my aunt was feeling connected even in an isolated scenario. Doing those, we did a drive-by, so organized from everyone from the New Berlin Police Department or Fire Department, all the way down to her friends and family, and doing a drive-by, but just providing that level of support and like, hey, we're here for you, we miss you, we want to be near you, we understand, but you're not forgotten. So I think that is my takeaway of some of the amazing things that had happened in 2020, is all of us just kind of had to be creative in how you connect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there is ever a community that can creatively solve problems, it's the ALS community. So now looking into 2021, I mean, again, we have a lot to accomplish. I want to get a sense from the panel of what are some of your goals for the community that you want to see accomplished in 2021, and how can those who are watching help make those a reality. So actually, why don't we start with Michelle and Bobby, if you guys are willing to kick us off, and then we'll go to Sandy and then Allison, and then we'll finish up with Janessa.
Okay, our goals, just to kind of give you a little snapshot quick of 2020 with Team Quinn. We started our nonprofit officially November of 2019. Bobby is, they call him the mayor here in our area because it's kind of like 7 degrees of Bobby Quinn. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Bobby. So we had so many, when he was first diagnosed, so many people that he hadn't heard from since high school and had worked with 10 and 20 years ago that reached out saying, what can we do? What can we do? Which is kind of why we started, how we got started. And then folks, we have a lot of friends and acquaintances in the musical arena here in Richmond, and different bands and singing groups who started having fundraising concerts, different fundraising programs and events. And we were doing really well. And Bobby said, babe, what are we going to do at some point when I go to live with Jesus, which is what he calls it? Are we going to have these fundraisers? What are we going to do? And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I want to start a nonprofit and I want to keep this going. And I want to give the rest of the money and give money now to other people that aren't as fortunate as us. So we started the nonprofit, kicked it up. We were supposed to have our launch party in April of 2020, which of course got kiboshed. But the end result was what was, kind of kicking us off to answer the question of what we're looking forward to in 2021. Bobby back in the day was an amazing golfer and athlete of all different kinds, but friends of ours own 2 golf courses here in the Richmond area, and they started a golf tournament, the Quinn Classic Fighting ALS Golf Tournament. Last year was our first year that we had the tournament, and we raised $32,000 the first year. And we weren't sure this year, when we had to postpone it from May to October, or September, I should say, how it was going to go, or if we were going to get anybody to play. And surprisingly, and like everyone said on the panel, people came forward like gangbusters. We ended up with 36 teams, 144 golfers, and 4 teams on a wait list at the end of the day. And we raised $43,000 for our second year. So our goal coming up for this 2021, the golf tournament is now scheduled back in May 17th, is to sell out again and, raise as much, meet our goal that we had last year and exceed that this coming year with, a couple of, if that event and some of the other events that we have. And then the other goal, of course, is to help our ultimately, we set up our nonprofit for folks to donate to Team Quinn, and then we take that money and give it to other people who need it for out-of-pocket expenses, a lot of which everybody on this panel knows are not covered by health insurance. So that was our goal. And even though it didn't start off as planned in 2020, it ended a lot better than we had anticipated. We also had another friend of ours who is a local builder. He also had a golf tournament that he had had for many years, but once Bobby was diagnosed, he turned it into a fundraising golf tournament. In 2018, he raised $82,000. 2019, he raised $83,000. And last year, he raised $93,000. So once we started our nonprofit in 2019, last year's golf tournament, we got to split the $93,000 with another ALS nonprofit here in the Richmond area. So we've been very lucky, but our goal for 2021 is to continue to raise as much money as we can. We've created brochures now, which we're going to be sending out to the ALS clinics and most of the neuromuscular folks, ALS and MDA folks out in the medical community, so they can learn about who we are, why we got started, and can go onto our website to apply for funds for those out-of-pocket expenses. So the twofold goal is raise as much money as we can for 2021 and get more people in the community aware that we exist, and we are a monetary resource for them, and to get the word out, spread the word on who we are and what we're about.
Fantastic. Well, after this session, we'll follow up with you so that we can help get the word out about that as well.
That would be awesome.
The folks who can help fundraise, but also to folks who may need the resources as well. So I'll follow up with you after the event. We'll make that happen.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. And how about you, Sandy? What do you see as some community goals that you want to see accomplished in 2021?
Yep. Number one goal is this: investigational therapies are allowed to be put into ALS patients when they want them, if they want them. Because honestly, that is what the ALS families want. A shred of hope, right? Your person is dying, or you are dying, and you just want a shot on goal. So we will not rest. I Am ALS will not rest until that is actually our reality. And that's going to be through expanded access programs. That's going to be through efficient and humane clinical trials like the Healing Platform trial. And that's when we know that we won, because Tanner, when we can celebrate the first ALS survivor, we have arrived. And we know in this disease that it's complex. It's going to be so many different treatments, because this disease is not one disease, it's many. So that is my goal for 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, that's our goal too. We're very heavily focused on research at Unite, so that's 100% our goal as well. And Allison, how about you?
Thanks. Well, of course, I absolutely agree with Sandy as what's the most important thing for 2021. But I hesitate a little bit, I have to be honest, of really defining what I think my goals are, because if the last year has showed us anything, it's that think outside the box, because you could have never dreamed that some of these things would happen, and they do. So a more general, I guess, way of putting it is, I'm expecting that the impossible is going to be possible. And I don't know what that's going to look like necessarily. And I don't know the exact path that we're going to take to get there. But I have this like Dory feeling. I just keep swimming, just keep going, because we don't know where we're going, but we're going somewhere and we're going to get there. And to Sandy's point, I think it's such a perfect point that when people ask me, you know, well, who are you? Why are you in this ALS community? And I say, well, right now, I'm a survivor of ALS, and that's a tough gig. It is tough to be a survivor of ALS the way that we define it right now. And maybe, just maybe, fingers crossed, we can make this year the year that we redefine what that means and celebrate being a survivor instead. So that's my goal and my hope.
Thank you, Allison. And how about you, Janessa?
So 2021 for me, I think will really revolve around continue to educate people around me in regards to what ALS is, what its impacts are, and what we can do. I had great plans for 2020 as far as fundraising and some other events, and obviously those had to get shoved to the side. And so hopefully they'll be resurrected this year, and we'll be able to gather as a community to continue this effort.
Amazing. And so, you know, this past year, there's been a lot of talk about the legislation that has been going through Congress. I wonder if we can just take a few minutes to talk specifically about that for those who have been actively working on it. I know Allison, you have, Sandy, you have. So, you know, first of all, if one of you can give kind of a primer on the legislation that you've been working on, just very brief so people are up to speed, that would be great. And then maybe we can answer a question that we got from the audience about what you think helped to finally get the bill to the floor and to become a law, the Social Security Disability Bill. Allison, maybe can you start us off there, and we'll go to Sandy?
Yeah, actually, Tina, if it's okay with you, Sandy is very good at defining exactly what each of those are. And then I'm happy to jump in and share how we get people activated to support those movements, if that's okay.
Yeah. Sandy, you game for that?
You bet. My daughter's here and she listens to every call I'm on. So
Awesome.
you can absolutely fill in the blanks. But so the one that's so very important right now is ACT for ALS, and it's 8662 and 4867. And we almost got it through. And I have to say that the legislative support team at IMLS works tirelessly, but you would not believe all the groups that almost got that through. Like, I couldn't even begin to mention the people that were fighting for that night and day. And it is critically important that we get this through. And you need to know if your rep and your senators support this. And if they do not, and you do not know how to get engaged, please contact us. Please contact me. We can help you. We will absolutely make sure that this goes through this year. It is for expanded access programs. It is for funding for EAPs for biotech firms that might not have the funding. It is for a consortium, if you will, at the FDA level, so that we have something like oncology has, which theirs is called a center of excellence. And it is just us finally standing up as a group to say, enough is enough. And how is it that you could get clinical trial protocol out there and not think about those that can't get in? And so it's us standing our ground and making the difference this year. And the reason that we got 1407 through last year was because we did just that. We stood together and said, enough is enough. You will not wait 5 months to give an ALS family their check that they have earned because many of us don't even make it to 5 months after that time, because guess what? We like to work. So we work as long as we can. And then you ask us to sit for 6 months without a check in a bankruptcy disease. So again, it is all about the community getting together and saying, this is what we need, this is what we demand, and what we call it over in the IMALS camp is heartbreak to action. Don't just break their hearts. Don't just tell them how sad that ALS is. Tell them what they can do to help us.
And
you
go ahead, Allison.
I'm sorry. And I think, thank you, Sandy. And I think what some people may not realize is how very, very simple it is to get involved in those efforts, and that there's so much effort that has already gone into it that it's very easy to join. And organizations like I Am ALS, Michelle at Everything ALS, the No More Excuses Facebook group, there's so many resources that will help you find if your representatives are included. If not, who is your representative? Are they included? How do you contact them? Here's a form letter that you can use. Here's a link that you can click to do that. And it seems overwhelming and it seems scary, but it isn't, because there are people behind, like Sandy, behind every one of those fronts that are there to help. And the number of people growing is phenomenal. So I just want to share that anybody can join that movement.
And I know we have some comments from the audience as well about the fact that ALS advocates can reach out to more congressional representatives in their state than just their own. And that, as an ALS advocate, you can be an advocate for the ALS community statewide, not just your congressional district. Great. I'm glad we were able to spend some time on the legislation. I do want to take some time. I know we have some interest from the audience as well, to talk about what future advocates or current advocates who want to increase their impact as well can do to have more and more and more effective advocacy. So Sandy, you mentioned break to action, and I'm sure there's a dozen more things that people can keep in mind to be even more effective advocates for the ALS community. But I guess as a starting point for anybody who's interested in getting active, who have not been advocates in the past, how would you recommend that somebody start? Somebody who's interested in becoming a vocal ALS advocate who hasn't done so in the past. Maybe we can start with Janessa.
Honestly, I think it's just sharing information. So social media is such a uniter for a lot of people. And so joining those different groups and then relaying and sharing to their own personal groups what that information is, and driving that conversation. I think that was probably one of the largest ones. And that's why I had created a Facebook group for everybody that my aunt knows, and are former employees and that type of thing, so that they could stay connected and that they can be advocates too. So I really think utilizing social media is a great way to start.
And how about you, Michelle and Bobby?
I would say it's kind of interesting how things will spark a conversation. We have Team Quinn swag, if you will. We have t-shirts and hoodies and baseball caps and stickers and tumblers and bracelets and hand sanitizer. If there's something we can put the Team Quinn logo on and get it out in the community, we do. In our shirts, we have Team Quinn on the front, and then down the sleeves, it says Cure ALS. My license plate in my car says Cure with a Q for Quinn, Cure ALS. So what's interesting is, as far as what you can do to advocate, for us, what's worked is getting our name out there and the Team Quinn logo out there to spark conversation, because we've had so many people that wear our shirts or our hats, and they're out there, and then people will say, well, what's Team Quinn? And that kind of sparks the conversation of, oh, well, do you know what ALS is, and so on and so forth. And, we have a lot of folks that have told us they end up standing in the grocery store or at a gas station pump talking for 20 minutes about someone who said, what's Team Quinn? And they were able to educate them on ALS, or come to find out, that person that asked what Team Quinn was lost a relative or a loved one to ALS and said, well, how can I get involved? So that's what's helped us really. So I would say, to try and come up with something that's going to spark conversation, your own family Facebook page, if it's a immediate family member, a website. We have our own website as well. Getting out in the community through our swag and having it all out and about in various places, reaching out to your local community, people that we know that own restaurants that have, that's actually every Monday night in January, Team Quinn is the pizza for a cause. So every Monday night at one of the local restaurants, $1 from each pizza goes to the Team Quinn nonprofit. So I would say just, be as vocal as you can, not only in your physical voice, but in your, your literal voice, both of them, getting the word out to the community, starting a Facebook page, individual Facebook page, a website, and just, trying to build the community support and tap into your church resources and other resources, people that you know that own small businesses that can do fundraisers to get the word out. Things that are going to spark a conversation where people are going to say, what is, the team, or whatever the name is of your group that you formed, to get the conversation going. And that will that's what's built our momentum from there, is spreading the word and people jumping on board. So social media aspect of it as well, tap into that.
Awesome. And Allison, maybe we can go to you next, and then we'll go to Sandy.
Sure. My advice to people who are just starting off in advocacy, and I actually talked to a lot of people about this, and it seems overwhelming, and people are afraid of that word. Like, how do I advocate? And if you stop and think for a second, like if you're a parent and some kid says something wrong to your kid, and like the hair on your neck goes up and you want to jump in there and say something, you advocate every day of your life, and you probably always have. So as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, start where you are, and start with who you are, where you are, what you're involved in. And while those people may not jump in to advocate for ALS as a whole, because look, they don't know what you know about that community right then, they know you. And if they start doing something for you, or for your church, or your school, or your kids' school, or your community, then the word starts spreading, and then those people take it back to their family and their schools and their other communities, and that's how we spread the word. And then we get swag, and I'm going to be contacting to get some Team Quinn swag after this, but so it grows, it happens on its own. So my advice is start where you are and let it go where it's going to be.
It's amazing advice. And how about you, Sandy? Where should people start?
Well, as usual, Allison and I speak a lot of the same language. So what you just said about passion is what I believe is too, is because awareness is not enough. Action, it's action. It's action. We have to stop admiring this complex disease, and we have to start demanding that we can be like the HIV community that no longer tolerated having 100% terminal disease and made sure that it was treatable. Get outraged. People know that ALS truly is not rare. It is not rare. Everybody you talk to has been touched by ALS. That is not a rare disease. So we need to make sure that those that have not been touched by ALS yet are as outraged as those that are. And the passion and the action that you put behind that is going to make the difference to put us into the winner space as well. We have to fight for the science, the treatments, the therapies, and that's when we've arrived. So basically what I would say is just get started. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't even matter where you start. Use your voice, call your legislator, understand what your neurologist is telling you and get moving, because you have no idea that the work that you put in today might very well be the reason that you save somebody's life tomorrow.
Mhm. Yep.
You know, Sandy, you mentioned action, and so we have about 14 minutes left. There's a few questions that we can get to if we have time, but I would be remiss if we didn't help the attendees get into action practically right here and now. So if you're an attendee, take out a pen and pencil or your phone so you can write stuff down. We're going to go around and have each of our panelists say one thing that attendees can do to help you accomplish your specific tangible goals in 2021. And if there's nothing they can do to help you individually, you feel free to direct them to one of the other panelists' cause if you want. So why don't we start with Janessa, if that's okay, and then we'll go to Bobby and Michelle, and then Sandy, and then Allison.
So one of the things that I actually wanted to mention, and it goes back to what Michelle was talking about with swag. I use what's called Bonfire, which is a web-based app, and it's a way that I don't have to carry any inventory, but a way that I can fundraise. So I have a store, Sitters Clan ALS Fighters, and it would be a great way to purchase stuff that would help in our fundraising efforts. But truly going back to, if you need to start and you don't know where, Bonfire is a great resource, because it really takes a lot of the financial impact of having to have your own inventory, but you're still wanting to create. So you can create your own shirts and sell them, and they deliver. It's all included. So that would be what I would suggest.
Awesome. And this is being recorded. We'll send it out so that the community can get the URLs and links, anything you mentioned here down flat. So awesome. Thank you, Janessa.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were going to go to Michelle and Bobby, right?
I think so. I think
All right,
we're up.
let's do it. We're up now.
just to show you real quick, this is one of our Team Quinn COVID masks, which we sell on our website, but you can't really see it very clearly, but that's our logo right there. You can see it. Navy blue and white are our colors. So I think to answer, I mean, that's been the biggest thing for us, but even if, I mean, start small, I would say. If, you know, if you are just a little fish in the big pond of ALS, just starting out wanting to advocate, my first tip, or my primary tip, is going to be reach out to your local community of your local support system. Who do you know? Do you know someone who owns a small business, and that small business could possibly do something for you, or have an event or a fundraiser? Your church community, who do you know in your local community is really where I would start if you're a smaller, you know, in the smaller advocacy realm of things, starting out, to build a momentum from there. Because, you know, like Allison says, it's just going to snowball from there, because it's not a rare disease anymore. Somebody who knows somebody is indirectly affected by it. And that's what's going to build momentum from there. So just my number one tip, I would say, is, you know, just sit down with a pen and paper and say, you know, who do we know? Who does my husband know? Who do I know? You know, do we have church family? Do we have a business family? Do we have, you know, a children, you know, kids in sports family? What other communities are we involved in? Or is our family and, you know, extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, close business acquaintances, who do we know? that can help us get the word out, because somebody's going to, in your community nowadays, somebody's going to have a contact that might be just that one contact, at somewhere like Unite Genomics, or that has some kind of connection to DC or the legislative community. And all it's going to take is that it's not what you know, it's who you know. So that would be my tip, to start out with. Write down who you know, reach out to your various communities you're involved in, and get the ball rolling that way.
Amazing. And how about you, Sandy? What's one thing that the attendees can do to help you accomplish your goals?
Channel your rage against this disease into productivity. Be productive. Like, there are so many good groups out there right now. Do your homework. Go look at what they're doing. Align yourself with the group that is doing making some great progress in this disease, and jump in with both feet. Don't be shy. ALS is not a shy disease. It is absolutely relentless, and we absolutely must be relentless too. So do not sit back in your comfy chair and talk about how tough this disease is. Get going, because whatever you do is going to move us along better than just being an armchair quarterback. So get involved. And like what Allison said, if this was your child, this was your mother, you would run at this like fire. Do that, because these groups know what they're doing. We are finally making changes. The science is arriving. Let's hurry. Warp speed, that's what I say. And if you have any questions on true action items, ask them from the people that are doing it. Contact the group that you feel most comfortable with, and they will tell you 6 things off the top of their head that you could do by dinner tonight.
How about you, Allison?
Well, I think what you all can do to help me accomplish my goals in 2021 is help me find you. So I really believe that we're all more than our disease. We are marketing people, we are website people, we are people of all sorts, and we come with skills that we need in this fight and this community. So join the conversation, join I Am ALS. It's a huge pool of people. We are our best resource. Join any Facebook groups that you can. Contact me directly. There are so many resources, but I really feel we are our best resources. So help me find you, and we can help each other move the needle on this.
Amazing. So we have a few minutes left here, and I want to just make sure that we're covering all of the questions that we got in the Q&A. So I guess really quickly, for the foreseeable future, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of COVID. Hopefully we'll be back to some semblance of normal soon. But to the extent that we're still in this virtual world, it does facilitate a lot of meetings and communication between peers and within the community. We do have a question about how do we get in front of legislators, for example. How hard or easy is it to set up Zoom appointments with the people who can control the legislation that's currently being discussed? Does anybody have any perspective on that?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It is so easy. Your legislator wants to please you as their constituent. They will set up a Zoom meeting with you, usually within 3 days. You get the emails out, you stay persistent. You call their office and you tell them what you want them to do for you. And you will be absolutely amazed and impressed at how compassionate they are. And once they know what we're fighting for, sometimes they can't believe what we're up against. And you will create relationships with them that will last years, because They really do care. But if they don't know, they can't care. So if you don't know who your rep is, or you don't have relationships with your senators, start there. It is so easy. And ALS is a very, very easy disease to sell because nobody can believe in America in 2021 that there is nothing you can do. So tell them that that's what we're up against, and tell them that they could be our heroes. And like I said, if anyone needs help with that, there are so many groups out there that are doing it well. And you would be so impressed with how we have one consistent voice out there finally. We're all saying the same thing. And it's easy for our leaders to follow. So please let that be your first step.
Excellent. Allison, it seemed like you had something to add. Did you?
Just to mirror Sandy, I was going to tell people it's much easier than you would suspect that it is, that especially in this online world, people are so willing to take the time to sit where they are and listen to what you have to say. So don't be afraid. It's easier than you think. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists here. You know, this completes today's discussion. But thank you again for joining us, and a very special thank you to our 2020 ALS Community Advocate Award winners. Attendees, you'll be receiving a post-event evaluation form, just like all of our virtual events, in your emails. And we'd appreciate it if you could fill it out so that we can help make these events better in the future. But we, you know, in general, we appreciate everyone's support and look forward to seeing what we can accomplish as a community in advancing ALS research and treatments in 2021. So you heard a lot of opportunities to get involved and take action on this call here, and but nothing changes unless we take action, right? Just talking about it is not enough, and there's plenty of opportunities. So, you know, as always, the time to act is now. So let's get out there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.